let's take a look at football now. A year 2025 promises to be a year for me of seeking our status in African football. In July this year, in Morocco, we will find the African Women Nations Cup competition taking place, and South Africa right now are defending champions. The likes of Morocco, Nigeria, who have been powerhouses in women football, will be there as well. What chances do the Super Falcons have in 2025 to make amends from what we've seen of them in the last 3 or 4 years?
I think we have a great chance. The NFL just needs to decide, you know. Right now, I mean, since Randy Waldrum left, they've talked about getting a foreign coach and named Justin Madugu as interim coach. Now, I know the NFL doesn't have money, you know, so trying to talk about, you know, hiring a foreign coach, there are two ways. It's either you hire the coach immediately and let him get to work on, you know, beginning preps for this tournament, or you name Justin the coach and let him, you know, continue working, because now Justin has handled, I think, 2 friendly matches, if I'm not mistaken, with the Super Falcons since Randy left, and he hasn't done badly. So if you want to make a decision, because what normally kills us is the indecision. You know, on the one hand, you're saying, oh, we're going to get a coach here, so you act as interim. So the man who's acting as the coach doesn't know if he's going to be there when the main event kicks off or not. And so he's just like, it's patchwork. And then maybe if you now decide, maybe he gets one bad result, you now decide you want to bring somebody in, that person comes in with, you know, a few weeks to the tournament and then tries to change everything around. So I think my thing would be to say, look, NFF, make a decision. You know?
The Nigerian Football Federation have to make a decision on employing coaches. You talked about employment of coaches. It's not only in the female, for the female national team. In the past, we've seen especially in 2024, you know, the head coach of the Super Eagles of Nigeria, you know, lose his job or his contract wasn't renewed and he was foreign. And everyone expected that there'll be another appointment for a foreign coach, Austin Eguavoen, acting in an interim capacity. This is 2025. The African Cup of Nations for male category is in December. I remember very well in Morocco, will be in December, but qualifiers are in March. And so, are we going to continue with Austin Eguavoen, or like you mentioned, the Nigerian Football Federation must act now and get a coach? Either, you know, you name Austin Eguavoen, or you have a foreign coach that can get the job done, leading up to December, when the tournament itself will be in session. But first, we have to qualify. And by the way we are going, it looks like a qualification, just like in the World Cup as well. Our qualification looks doubtful.
Oh, yeah. I mean, to be honest, and I say this respectfully, I have given up on the World Cup, because for us to qualify now, we need to win every single game left, and then hope that others, you know, don't do the same thing. So at this point, I believe we have maybe a 20% chance of qualifying. And so at that point, if we qualify, I'll consider it a miracle. But like I said with the Super Falcons, the NFF have to make a decision. Do you want Austin Eguavoen to continue in this capacity and run through the qualifiers, or do you want to get another coach to come in on a permanent basis? And that decision has to be made before March. Make it and stand by it. You know, don't just leave Austin there as interim, because now, again, there's no great headspace for both the coach and the players. They don't know what to expect. So make a decision, keep Eguavoen or get a foreign coach.
Well, before we get out of the national teams, the Chan Eagles, the Super Eagles Team B, are just been called to camp. About 26 players have just been called to camp by the coach in charge, Ogunmudude. Do you see these Chan Eagles getting, you know, emerging champions from this tournament? The tournament is just a few weeks away.
I'm not certain. Look, I like the duo of Ogunmudude and Felix. His name keeps escaping me now. The former MFM coach. What? Ilechukwu, yeah, Ilechukwu, exactly. Don't mind me. So I like that combo. But I'm also concerned about the players. I saw a few players there that maybe weren't as good as they should be.
You were in Uyo to watch the last game?
Yeah, I was in Uyo to watch the game. Now, I've heard that 2 of the players who were there, Ismail Sadiq, and I think another one, are now leaving for Europe, so they will not be eligible to play. And that's always the issue I have when we talk about getting home-based players into the Super Eagles. Every coach that has coached the Super Eagles, that has invited local players to the Super Eagles, has had to deal with the fact that they play 2-3 matches and then they're off to Europe. And then when they go, they take some time to adjust, and you can't even get them back to come and play even while there, because it's not like they go there, they walk into the team, start making an impact, and then you can still get them back. So every time you invite a domestic league player to come to the national team, you know that the most you can get from him is 5 matches. And that's even stretching it, and that's it. So it's the same issue now that we have. Ismail Sadiq is one of the best players in that Chan team, and now he's gone. He's not going to take part. So how do we look at that? Because now the coach has to start thinking of who to bring in to replace him, and it's not that easy. Every player is unique. So I think it's going to be tough because we have no guarantees that some more players are not going to go, and then you have to find more to replace them. So that's the tough proposition that's going to be hard for the team.
Talking about tough propositions for local-based players here in Nigeria, let's look at our performances in the last year as to what you expect this year. At the continent level, we have the African. We had 4 teams at the continent. 3 crashed out. Right now, we have only Yimba. This weekend, we have Yimba play the Bull, in one of the continental ties. I think it will be a double header at the Gospel Aquavio Stadium this weekend and next weekend. But a lot of Nigerians giving up on Yimba. Yimba is not the same we knew of 2003 and 2004. And right now, Nigeria is running at the risk of losing her chance of having 2 teams, represent us at the continental level because of our performances in the last few years. What is really responsible for a decline in African football? Like we mentioned, we had Yimba 2 consecutive winners in 2003, 2004. But thereafter, we've not had any strong representation at the continent year in, year out. Now we are running at risk of not, having our country represented by 2 teams at the both tiers of African football.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to coefficients. If you don't qualify for the group stages, you lose coefficient points. And so teams that actually qualify for that stage gain coefficient points. And so they catch up with you, they overtake you, and then you drop a spot until you can get it. And in fairness, that's a great metric to measure, that, because our teams, I mean, I can't remember the last time our team made it to the group stage of these tournaments. And right now, we're, like you said, Eyimba now is actually struggling. And again, it comes down to, the professionalism of running our teams. These clubs are not run professionally, I mean, Eyimba right now have just sacked. First of all, we had Finidi at the start. Finidi went to the national team. They appointed Yama. Yama took over team, and he got fired. Now Stanley Eguma is there for this game. So there's no continuity at all in those coaching ranks. And again, you also have players who are also playing with one eye on going to a different African country or going to Europe. So I think we need to get to the point where players feel comfortable enough to stay in this league until they get an offer that they just can't refuse before they go, just like we have in South Africa and North Africa. Otherwise, it's going to be hard. The North Africans are doing great at that. The East Africans like TP Mazembe and co are doing great at it. South Africans, of course, are awesome at that. So until we can get to that level in our league, it's going to be tough for us. And, if we lose our spot, that makes it even harder.
Okay, I think that's the most you can take from around Africa. Let's quickly now go to Europe because we're running out of time. Colin, if you look at Africa, African players generally abroad, they seem to be making some kind of eye-catching representation. But in the past, we used to have Nigerian players who get it done. Only recently, there's Ademola, who was won the African Player of the Year, and of course helped his team, Atlanta, beat that 66-year-old record in Italian football for Atlanta, winning the league. How do you rate African players, abroad? You are based in the United States of America, but I know you follow especially European football as well.
Well, look, I think we have sort of like, we had this great year where we had plateau top African player. We had a lot of African players at the very top, and then we kind of plateaued, and then now we're kind of like going down a little bit. We don't have that many anymore because right now, if you look at, you can call Mohamed Salah, you can call Ademola Lookman, maybe Achraf Hakimi, Victor Boniface. So we don't have that. We're not back in the day where you can name at the tip of your finger, almost like 15,
in the days
20,
of George Upon where
the Drogbas, the Kalous, the Torre, Torre. So we don't have that same influence and impact anymore. But we still have a sizable number of African players who are doing the business abroad. So I think that it's a times and seasons kind of thing. You know, we're still there, and I'm sure we're still going to get to that stage again.
Well, this is January. Everybody knows that January there's a window for teams to be fortified. Do you see African players on the move, or being in the mix of movement? This, especially looking at a player like Victor Osimhen.
Yeah, I think Victor's move depends largely on what Napoli wants. I mean, Napoli have got all the they've got all the aces. They control his contract, and so if Victor is to move, then Napoli is going to have a large say on that. We've heard rumors of him going to Manchester United. I don't know how true that is, but you know, I think a few players will move. But I don't think we'll have any significant move for an African player this window. Probably not until the summer.
You talked about Salah. Salah, we understand he's in his own words that this will be his last year, you know, in playing for Liverpool FC. Can this see the light of the day? We understand that Liverpool dusting up a contract for him.
Yeah, I mean, everything's all about. I mean, it's all about the Benjamins, baby. So, but I think he will probably want to go on a high. I mean, Sadio Mane was there, he moved, and so I think that if Salah can lead Liverpool to the title and go out on a high, he probably might go for the money in Saudi Arabia. And who knows, don't be surprised, he might even go back to Egypt. But I think that after this season, if he's really determined to leave, he's going to move for the money because he would have won the PL title. Okay,
Colin, you follow the Premiership very well. What is happening to Manchester, both the red end of Manchester and the blue end of Manchester? In the blue end, they've never been in this kind of a position in the last 2 decades. Yes, they've been winning, but now they're struggling to at least stay within the European places. Talk about Manchester City. Then for Manchester United, I really can't remember in the last 3 decades when they have been out of the top 10. First half of the season. So what can we be traceable? What is happening to Manchester, both the blue end and the red end of Manchester?
I think with Man City, I think you've got to say they are probably a bit jaded. And when I say mentally jaded, because you know when you keep you're winning, again it's you're rising, you plateau. And then you kind of like start going down a little bit. They'll recover. They've got a great manager. They've got some great players in that team. So you're not going to keep them down for
their coach has already said that they are out of the title race. Do you agree with him?
No, I mean when you're that far back, it's kind of hard. You know, you've got to Liverpool have got to collapse cataclysmically for them to get into title. And then Arsenal, of course. You have to depend on both Liverpool and Arsenal making some catastrophic collapse for them to get in the title race. So I think he's right there. But like I said, you know, they probably have written off this season, and their ambitions now are probably limited to just making the Champions League at least, or qualifying for Europe. But like I said, they've got some great players in the squad. They've got a great coach. They will definitely bounce back. It's a bit more complicated for Manchester United because then the issue is it comes all the way from the top. It's the leadership from the very top with the Glazers all the way down to the manager, and then you have coaches who are not motivated to do much beyond just, you know, cashing a big paycheck. And that culture comes from the top. The Glazers don't care about football. They care about the revenues that come from Manchester. As long as the club is making money, people are buying tickets, are buying merchandise, are getting in there and turning those styles, and they're making money. It's fine. They're good with that. And so you can see in the less than a year that Ineos have come in, they have made significant changes on the football side. That's something the Glazers didn't care about. So because the leadership doesn't care so much about the football side, then it kind of permeates down all the way to the coaches and the players. And so United's problems are run much deeper.
Well, when you have Colin in the studio, you can run, but we have to begin to wrap up the show at this point in time. You talked about Arsenal. they've had a lot of people say they are the nearly men of Premier League football. The last 2 seasons they almost got it, were beaten to it by Manchester City. Liverpool this time around looks like running away with at least 6 points gap between them and Arsenal. This is midway the season in the Premier League. Do you see Arsenal, catching up, maybe better than what we've seen of them in the last 2 seasons?
To be honest, I don't trust Arsenal. Arsenal have made it a habit of choking away titles over and over and over again. And I don't think this season is going to be different. And to be fair, they are not the ones on top now, so we can't actually accuse them of choking. But I'm struggling to remember when Arsenal hunted down the title, the league leaders, and then actually won the title. I think the last time they did that was that season they won 1-0 with Wiltor scoring at Old Trafford, and even then they were I think they were neck and neck with Man United, and then that win kind of put them over the top. Beyond that, Arsenal have never really hunted down the league leaders and then overtook them and then gone on to win the league. So I really don't see them overtaking Liverpool. And then when they have been in front, like we saw last season, I think a couple of seasons back, when they've been in front, they've been almighty chokers. So I don't think Arsenal have what it takes to hunt down and overturn Liverpool. So they're going to finish as the bridesmaids again this year.
Wow, we have to wrap up the show, man, and you can always get the best from Colin. But Colin, you are here in Nigeria on holiday, but this weekend in the United States of America, there is Presidential Medal of Freedom being handed out to Magic Johnson and Lionel Messi, for their contribution, to sports, worldwide. The President Joe Biden of the United States of America will hand out this medal this weekend, to Magic Johnson. If you remember, you follow basketball as well. Magic Johnson, as a player of Los Angeles Lakers, won the NBA title 5 times, and it doesn't come easy. We don't have many players who have won the NBA title, 5 times. And for Lionel Messi, he's legendary around football. But first, let's look at Magic Johnson being among, I think, about 19 of them, athletes around the world, both in business, sports, and academics and other fields that are being honored there this weekend in the United States of America. Magic Johnson, no doubt, a legendary basketball player.
Yeah, not just legendary. He was a generational player. Magic Johnson, with the basketball in his hand, was poetry in motion. He could pass the ball in ways that many people could not. He could create space. He could do a lot of things with the basketball. I think he was. I was young, but Magic Johnson was the first major case of HIV infection that we heard about, and that scared the living daylights out of me back, I think it was maybe 20-something years ago. But he's come through that, he's lived through it, and he's contributed to the community, he's invested in business, great basketball player. So I think it's a well-deserved honor, and he still continues to represent basketball in the most positive light, So I think it's a well-deserved honor for Magic Johnson.
Messi, 8 times Ballon d'Or winner, 8 times FIFA Best Player of the Year as well. Yeah. I'm not too sure anybody will have anything to say about this, but
well, yes. You've got to look at the award, the medal, and think, because usually it's given to Americans or people who live in America, for contributions to that, not so much as a global. Otherwise, see many people getting it. So Messi's getting it because he came to the MLS and he helped, raise the profile of the MLS. In all honesty, I would think that it's too short a time to give that medal to Messi. What he's done outside of the US is outside of the US. What he's done in the US hasn't been quite as seminal as the likes of Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, or even LeBron James, So I do believe that I would have waited a bit more. Unfortunately, the person coming after, is not quite, we're not going to go into that.
That's so, Colin is an American citizen now, and so I think if he says something about America and the level of contribution to his country, is it better? Like we know, Colin is Nigerian and American as well. So thank you very much, Colin, for sharing with us this weekend and on a very, very illuminating note on a lot of wide range of sporting issues.